تصفون وجاءت سيارة فأرسلوا واردهم فأدلى دلوه قال يا بشرى هذا غلام وأسروه بضاعة والله عليم بما يعملون وشروه بثمن بخس دراهم معدودة وكانوا فيه من الزاهدين وقال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته أكرمي مثواه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض ولنعلمه من تأويل الأحاديث والله غالب على أمره ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون ولما بلغ أشده آتيناه حكما وعلما وكذلك نجزي المحسنين وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ولقد همت به وهم بها لولا أن رأى برهان ربه كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر وألف يا سيدها لدى الباب قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن
حسن bir صوت واطي بابا عشان دراستك.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته to everybody. أهلا وسهلا بكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillah. It's a pleasure to be with you all again for our fourth session. And just a couple of notes before we begin. If your name is not displayed in the list of participants, some people might be joining on their phone, and sometimes it doesn't show your name. So if you're able to, it's nice. I think almost everybody is showing. It's just nice to see names, and so we know that everybody who's joining was somebody who signed up, and we appreciate that. And if you feel comfortable putting on your video, it's always nice to see other faces. So Bismillah, inshallah, if you feel comfortable. You know, something we didn't do in the beginning, which I really I wanted to do and I totally forgot, is for everybody to write in the chat where they're calling in from. I think that would be nice for everybody else to see. So if you could just take a moment and write in the chat what country you're calling from, so we can get a sense of the international community that we're participating in here. Alhamdulillah.
Samsi, could I just quickly do Maghrib, which will take about 3 minutes, and then come back quickly?
No problem. Bismillah.
All right.
From all sides of the planet. So thank you for taking the time to write that. It's just nice. I can see because I have the list of all of you who joined, right? But you haven't met each other really yet. So I think it's nice that you have this notion, and we have such a wide variety of people from different backgrounds, with such a richness of experience that they're bringing to this group. So I just want to again remind you, please bring your stories and your backgrounds to how you engage with this, and when you share in the chat or in the notes, I'm sure that the way that you interpret the words of the Sheikh are very unique to your own path, your own way, your own background. So alhamdulillah. We have a few new people joining today, so welcome to those who are new. And today will be a little bit different because Dr. Ali is he's preoccupied with some other things. He might join at some point, some points throughout. But what I've asked in substitute for Dr. Ali to help lead the group is Dr. Faris Abdelhadi to help us as we walk through the text today. And some of you might have joined his book launch call on Friday. And he's also a scholar in Ibn Arabi. And he was the one who just said, asked to pray Maghrib. So I'll be back in a few minutes. But in the meantime, I'm going to pull up the text, and if you have your own versions of the text, feel free to use that. If you like, I'm going to display the shared screen. Let's see. Okay, I think everybody can see that. Okay. For some reason, I can't see it though. Can everybody see what I'm sharing? Yes? Okay. Thank you for the nods.
Yes, but could you zoom in a little bit?
Yes. Here, one moment. How is this? It's okay?
Much better, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so far we've gone through the khutbah and the introduction to the text, and we made it through, I think, the first two sections. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the first two sections of the chapter on Adam. لما شاء الحق and وقد كان الحق سبحانه. And I think that we are on the third part. Is that correct? Does anybody remember? No? Fourth?
I think that we did only the first one.
Only the first?
Yes, I think only the first page of Adam alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we haven't read وَقَدْ كَانَ الْحَقُّ سُبْحَانَهُ أَوْجَدَ.
No, CD, it was way before this one. Like the very first paragraph, I guess.
Okay, so this is the first paragraph here.
No, like before this, can you scroll a little bit upwards?
This is the first part.
Then we didn't do this.
Yes, this was the first page that we started with.
Okay.
لما كان الحق سبحانه.
لما شاء الحق.
لما شاء الحق سبحانه.
Yeah.
And we did not read وَقَدْ كَانَ. No.
No, not the second one. No.
Okay.
I do not recall these at all. Was this the last session? You sure?
I'm sorry, you said, who is that?
It's Mariam and Gamal. I'll get the notes. I wrote the last thing that we wrote, but I don't recall these.
Yeah, I know we definitely read at least the first one. So maybe we can
I think we're going to have to recap anyways, because they're both interlinked, the first and second page. Brother
definitely.
Josh.
Okay. Yani, so let's see, let's start by doing our traditional way, reading, and maybe we can just start in the beginning again. So can we get some volunteers to read the first section here? Okay. Majid, تفضل.
Thank you, أخ جوشوا. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقد كان الحق سبحانه أوجد العالم كله وجود شبح مسوى لا روح فيه، فكان كمرآة غير مجلاة. Sorry, do you mind if we start from the beginning, or because I think they're both intertwined, or
This
do
is
you want
the
us to
beginning.
start?
Sidi, this is the beginning of the chapter on Adam.
No, there's one above it. If you scroll up. Yeah.
لما شاء الحق. Yes.
Yes, this is the beginning.
This is it.
Yeah, this is the beginning.
Yes.
بسم الله. لما شاء الحق سبحانه من حيث أسماؤه الحسنى التي لا يبلغها الإحصاء أن يرى أعيانها، وإن شئت قلت أن يرى عينه، في كون جامع يحصر الأمر كله، لكونه متصفا بالوجود ويظهر به سره إليه، فإن رؤية الشيء نفسه بنفسه ما هي مثل رؤيته نفسه في أمر آخر يكون له كالمرآة، فإنه يظهر له نفسه في صورة يعطيها المحل المنظور فيه مما لم يكن يظهر له من غير وجود هذا المحل ولا تجليه له. وقد كان الحق سبحانه أوجد العالم كله وجود شبح مسوى لا روح فيه، فكان كمرآة غير مجلاة. ومن شأن الحكم الإلهي أنه ما سوى محلا إلا ويقبل روحا إلهيا عبر عنه بالنفخ فيه، وما هو إلا حصول الاستعداد من تلك الصورة المسواة لقبول فيض التجلي الدائم الذي لم يزل ولا يزال، وما بقي إلا قابل، والقابل لا يكون إلا من فيضه الأقدس.
جزاك الله خير سيدي. Amira, would you like to read the two sections? تفضلي.
Do I do the two sections?
Yeah, بسم الله.
Okay, بسم الله. لما شاء الحق سبحانه من حيث أسماؤه الحسنى التي لا يبلغها الإحصاء أن يرى أعيانها، وإن شئت قلت أن يرى عينه في كون جامع يحصر الأمر كله، لكونه متصفا بالوجود ويظهر به سره إليه، فإن رؤية الشيء نفسه بنفسه ما هي مثل رؤية يكون له كالمرآة، فإنه يظهر له نفسه في صورة يعطيها المحل المنظور فيه مما لم يكن يظهر له من غير وجود هذا المحل ولا تجليه له. وقد كان الحق سبحانه أوجد العالم كله وجود شبح مسوى لا روح فيه، فكان كمرآة غير مجلوة. ومن شأن الحكم الإلهي أنه ما سوى محلا إلا ويقبل روحا إلهيا عبر عنه بالنفخ فيه، وما هو إلا حصول الاستعداد من تلك الصورة المسواة لقبول فيض التجلي الدائم الذي لم يزل ولا يزال، وما بقي إلا قابل، والقابل لا يكون إلا من فيضه الأقدس.
Thank you, Amira. And let's see. Dr. Faris, do you have any commentary on the beginning of this chapter to sort of lead us in before we progress?
Yes, absolutely. Since we're doing a recap, we can talk about it a little bit. The way I kind of envisioned this, though, is also more of a discussion and conversation. So I'd love to hear from people's inputs as well and talk about it in the form of a conversation. So please do pitch in, and I will be thinking. It's more about like thinking about this out loud. So when he says, لما شاء الحق سبحانه من حيث أسماءه الحسنى التي لا يبلغها الإحصاء أن يرى عيانها. Okay, what does he mean when he says the beautiful names which cannot be counted? The most beautiful names which cannot be counted. Why does he say that? And what does he mean by that? What is he talking about? What are your thoughts on that?
So if I may, I think we spoke a bit about it last week.
Yes.
In essence, it's the like the manifestation of al-Hadith al-Qudsi. كنت كنزا مخفيا أحببت أن أعرف فخلقت الخلق فبحبي عرفوني, or I was a hidden treasure and I love to be known, so I created creation so that in loving me they know me. So in Allah's manifestation there was nothing before Allah and nothing after Allah.
Yes.
And there will be nothing after Allah. So in that sense, this is the spirit of the first few lines.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful summary. Thank you very much. So we start even with the Hadith Qudsi, which is not proven by Sanad, but it's known by Kashaf. And it's generally accepted by all the Sufis now, even if it's not proven by Sanad, which means it's not proven by transmission. But it's the truth that this Hadith is speaking is accepted, which is absolutely excellent. So what is the treasure then? The treasure is the divine names, right? And it is through the divine names that the world or the cosmos is manifested. Why does he say that there are divine names that cannot be counted? In the Islamic tradition, how many divine names do we tend to talk about?
99.
About 99, right? Now, Ibn Arabi here is saying their numbers can't be counted. Why? What does that mean?
I don't know if this is just stating the obvious, but I mean, Allah is beyond our imagination, beyond what we can calculate. So his names must be infinite and beyond what we can comprehend. I don't know if that's just too obvious.
No, it's a fine statement. And you're thinking along the right lines. And as we, go along further down the train tracks, we'll see where this takes us. So the 99 names are more like matrix names, because for every divine name, there has to be something it can implement its authority over. And see, the ayah has mentioned this, as you rightly remember. So if Allah is a Rahman, there has to be someone he can have mercy over. So there has to be a marhum. If there's a Rabb, there's got to be a marboob. If Allah is al-Mudhil, the one who abases, there has to be someone who can be a base. And if there's someone who, if Allah is al-Mu'izz, there has to be someone he can exalt, and so on and so forth. So there has to be a receptacle for these divine names such that they can exercise their activities over them, right? Now, when the divine names exercise their effects over what are called the entities, or called the possibles, al-mumkinat, that's everything in creation, it becomes the site for the manifestation of that divine name's attribute, which takes on a divine quality. So in other words, you can know Allah through anything by virtue of the fact that each thing manifests his qualities, his names, and his attributes. Since there's only one wujud, which is Allah's wujud, so nothing can be known outside of Allah. That's impossible. So all of it is his wujud. So everything you encounter and look and turn around to witness tells you something about Allah one way or another. It's impossible for it to be otherwise, right? Therefore, each thing in existence is a divine name. And the things are uncountable, which are called the mumkinat. They have no end to infinity. So even if you say table, chair, Faris, Joshua, Maryam, sun, star, moon, those are all divine names. Every single one of them. Except we say that they're not shara'. It's not a revealed divine name, but they are divine names through which you know Allah. Hence, we come back to the statement, which cannot be counted. And that is the reason it cannot be counted. Because every name is a divine name, but those are like the particular names, not the universal names. There's a difference between the particular names and the universal names. When we talk about the 99 names of Allah, those tend to be the universal names. So if Allah is Ar-Razaq, He is the one who nourishes, and the loci manifestation for this divine name are in different kinds of food, for example, apple, banana, orange, knowledge, the nourishment of knowledge, emotions, nourishment of emotions, and so on and so forth. Those are all divine names, right? So they cannot be counted. So that is what he means by the divine names that cannot be counted. Now, let's take this also in a slightly different direction. And please tell me, because I'm really quite nothing compared to Sidi Ali. MashaAllah, he's brilliant when it comes to explaining these things. So if you want to progress in the actual text, tell me. Or if you're comfortable going off on this tangent in order to have a deeper understanding of the text, let me know as well. And we'll do it your way. See, Joshua, if you could let me know what the people are saying in case they don't mention it. I'm happy to keep going in this particular direction. Yes, Majid.
I think I pressed by mistake. Sorry. No,
okay.
You can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
I have a question. I'm not being able to understand ayan. I mean,
Ayan.
Yeah.
Ayan.
Ayan.
Ayan is a plural word for ayn, and ayan means the entities, which is a reference to something called al-ayan al-thabita, which are the immutable entities in Allah's knowledge. So there are different degrees and levels of existence. This is a bit challenging to think about, right? And we can go off on so many tangents here. But because we live in the modern world, we have a slightly different way of thinking, right? So this is a bit tricky to wrap one's head around, because the pre-modern world and the pre-modern way of thinking about this issue is so vastly different to what we are used to conceiving of. If I was to take a brief survey amongst all the participants here, and I just told them that, like, you could be anyone you want to be, anything you want to be, right? Achieve anything you want in life. How many hold that view and that sentiment, right? Okay. if some of you find yourselves saying, you know, this is the way I think, it has an intellectual lineage that might be traced back to a French existentialist philosopher, possibly farther back, Jean-Paul Sartre, who says that being precedes essence. And what he means by that is that we don't have preformed essences before we're born. We are able to make ourselves into what we want to be, and we're responsible for that. Now, the Islamic tradition has its own understanding of how do we understand the problem of responsibility, taking responsibility for our own actions. But we believe that Allah decrees. He decrees our actions, right? In pre-eternity. And it's written in and you even call it a being. It's written in a being called Allah al-Mahfuz, which is the guarded tablet. Our actions are predetermined, and so on and so forth, right? Our essences in the Islamic tradition, especially in the intellectual tradition, are already determined. We are just discovering what that essence is, because Allah, in His pre-eternal knowledge, knows what each one of us is. But we are discovering what we are, but He knows what we are. That's the Ayan Thabita. It is the fixed entity that's fixed in Allah's knowledge. So that when Umar bin Khattab, if you know him to be a major companion of the Prophet ﷺ, was prostrating towards an idol before he became a Muslim, the ulama say Allah loved him even when he was prostrating towards the idol. Why? Because Allah knew that he would eventually become Muslim. Because in Allah's pre-eternal knowledge, Umar bin Khattab was always a Muslim in his immutable entity. That's very different to the modern understanding of what we are philosophically. We have predetermined essences known in Allah's knowledge. He knows who we are. We're still discovering who we are, but He knows who we are. So that's called a fixed entity. The rose that is blooming now was always blooming in Allah's pre-eternal knowledge, because He knew that this rose would bloom. And then He knew that this person would achieve this thing in life, and that person would do this thing and that thing. But we don't know that, okay? So that's the word entity. It's just the being, but it's the being that is known in Allah's pre-eternal knowledge. That's what it is.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, if we talk about the divine names, which have no end, the reason they have no end is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the cosmos by its very nature demands the help of the divine names, or even vice versa. The divine names demand the existence of the cosmos, because if there is no cosmos, there is nothing for the divine names to exercise their authority over, which sounds weird, right? Because it sounds like we're talking about multiple beings, but we're not. There's only one being named Allah. But the names are His qualities, and they exercise authority over the cosmos. Now, He says that the name is a relationship, it's a nisbah, right? And in plural in Arabic, it's nisbat, relationship and relationships. It has no intrinsic wujud, it's not a thing, right? But nevertheless, it exercises effects over the whole of the cosmos. That is the hidden treasure. Now, Sidi Ali also talked about the two primary levels of being in existence, which is what? If I ask people to take a stab at it, what are the two primary levels of being?
Necessary beings and possible.
So that would be three: the possible beings, the necessary being who's Allah, and then the impossible. Add to that. But I meant the maratib, the levels. What are the two levels? Okay, I'm seeing that and sifat, but I'm talking about maratib. So there's the ahadiyya. And what's after the ahadiyya?
Wahdi.
The wahadiyya. Okay, good. Or the wahdaniyya. Now, there's a second way of stating this. You could also call it the Samadiyya, but it's not mentioned by Shaykh al-Akbar. But this is the way some of the Akbarian scholars also think about this, because it's nicely summarized in Surah Ikhlas. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ Allahu Samad. So you've got the two levels there. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. He is the Ahad. Therefore, that's the level of the Ahadiyya, in which nothing exists with him. He is the one sole unique being, and there is no comparison between him and his creation whatsoever. There are no relationships. Then the degree below that is the Wahidiyya or the Samadiyya. The word Samad in Arabic is the Arab chief to whom all the tribes have recourse. They all have the recourse back to this one chief. So there exists a series of relationships between this chief and other chiefs. That's the divine names. That is the divine names. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is the Ism al-Jama', the all-comprehensive name, surrounding which all the divine names have recourse back to this name, al-Ism al-Jama'. Therefore, there are relationships. Therefore, there's a Rabb and a Marbub, and there's a Razak and Marzuk, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the hidden treasure, which contains that second level, which is the Wahidiyya or the Samadiyya, right? Then what is the meaning of Adam if we're talking about the cosmos, and what is his purpose? This is an actual question. I want to hear some answers.
He's the manifestation of these divine qualities in action. The first, the primal, the prime alpha being, kind of.
Sure, but you know what? The whole cosmos is the attributes in action. What's another name we can use that really separates him from the rest, that makes him stand out from the rest? Because Adam alayhi salam, both as
Khalifa.
Khalifa.
He's the Khalifa of Allah, so the image of Allah.
Yes, but I'm looking for a word. What's the word that makes him Khalifa? It's in the text. It is al-Kawn al-Jama'. Sorry, say it again.
Is it that he has ruh?
I'm sorry, I
That
can't
he has ruh.
Ruh. All beings in the cosmos have arwah.
Is he the focus where everything is focused into him, into Adam alayhi salam? Is it like a locus of creation? I don't know what I'm.
Yeah, closer. So someone has written in the chat. I think that it's Hasina. Yeah, so Hasina correctly says, and by the way, you've all got points, mashallah. Hasina says correct that he's a microcosm. What is this microcosm in Arabic? Kawn al-Jama'. There is no other being in the entire cosmos in existence. Even if you go to 1,000,000 cosmoses, 1,000,000 universes, there is no one who is a Kawn Jama' except for Adam alayhi salam. And as the archetype, the perfect human being, al-Insan al-Kamil, he brings within himself all qualities, all sifat. Whereas in the universe, the sifat are spread out and dispersed. They're spread out and dispersed. So only some of the objects of the universe can express some certain divine names. So Allah would not create the universe for its own sake, which he mentions in the Quran. It's not created for fun, especially because only certain objects can express only a limited number of divine qualities. That is the reason for which the angels were ordered to bow down to Adam alayhi salam, and they said, we glorify you in your praise, and we do many dhikr. Why would we bow down to him? Right? And also, we don't disobey you. But then Allah said, إِنِّي عَلْمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, or مَا لَمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. So I know what you do not know, because then they saw that he contains every possibility in the whole of the cosmos, because هو علم آدم الأسماء كلها, right? هو علم آدم الأسماء كلها. He taught Adam the names, all of them. What are the names? Someone give me a tafsir. What are the names? Okay, the names in tafsir are the names of the objects, right? The names of the objects. But this is correct tafsir. So he taught the angels their names, the names of things. And as I'm seeing in the chat, another correct interpretation, maybe it's more ishara than tafsir, I'm not sure, but this is how the Akbarians understand it. Adam was taught the divine names. Then there's no contradiction. There's no contradiction. Because if you are taught the divine names, then by definition, you know the names of the things, because the things are the receptacles over which the divine names exercise their effects and their authority. There's no difference. Because if Allah teaches you, or Adam alayhi salam, the name al-Razaq, then he certainly knows the objects over which al-Razaq exercises its authority, right? So he names things by their proper and correct name, in accordance to which they were named in pre-eternity. This is why our thinking is vastly different to modern thinking, which ascribes to a form of nominalism, right? So nominalism reminds you of the French name nom, name. We are able to name things what we want them to be. Absolutely not. This is a form of inqilab, turning things upside down. This is turning the haqa'iq upside down. The realities are known and fixed in Allah's pre-eternal knowledge. Our job is to discover what they are. And then if you're a Khalifa Allah, like someone was mentioning earlier on, the Khalifa Allah is appointed to put things in their right place, in the right level of existence, with the right level of understanding, according to the pre-eternal realities. Not that we determine what realities are. That's a very Dajjalic way of understanding the world. And that's why fasad comes from that. Fasad comes from that. Corruption comes from misplacing things in their inappropriate levels where they do not belong. So that's what makes Adam Khalifat Allah ala ard. And this is why only the Adamic saint, the one who has the inheritance of this Adamic heritage, has the right to be Khalifat Allah ala ard. If you don't, as you'll discover throughout the Fusus al-Hikam, if someone else tries to be Khalifat Allah ala ard, he has the right to be called Khalifa, technically speaking, but in reality, he's not a Khalifa. Who tries to act as Khalifa without knowledge, which is a disaster? Who tries to act like Khalifa without knowledge? Who can take a stab and guess? Give me a guess. But Iblis never ruled, though, did he?
No, but he did.
Yes, I mean, Iblis is obviously the archetype, but who actually ruled? Who actually ruled without knowledge? Yeah, Fir'aun, exactly. So you're going to come across somewhere else in Fusus and Fas Musa, where the Sheikh Al-Akbar talks about this function of being a khilafa, this function of being a khalifa, but in the case of Fir'aun, without knowledge. And so things become put in the wrong place as a result of which oppression occurs. So just to recap, this is why the only person who has the right to be Khalifat Allah and be called Khalifat Allah in reality is the inheritor of Adam alayhi salam, and who knows the haqa'iq. Right?
Yeah, Ustad. I think an important point here, and I guess it doesn't come up until where is it? He mentions al-insan al-kabir.
Yes.
Of course, we know insan al-kamil, insan al-kabir, that the idea is for us to re-actualize, to remember our Adamic nature, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that something that Shabir Abdul Hussein is asking in the chat, he says, if something is invented, do we have to discover its name as opposed to ourselves naming it? And maybe you have some thoughts on this, but I just happened to be listening to a blogging theology podcast prior to the session today, actually on jinn and UFOs. Very interesting conversation. But it sparked something of great interest in me. And this has always been personally, my sort of reticence in the modern world around invention, right? And in as much as I believe that creativity is a God-given, it's a force that we have the capacity to participate in, right? To certain degrees. What came up in this conversation was that we can also be inspired by jinn. We can also be inspired by forces that are not angelic, right? That are not directly coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, when it comes to this question that Shabir is posing, when he says this, it's assuming that the invention is inherently a halal thing, let's say, right? Versus, I think what this conversation is calling us to call into question is even that which we are bringing into existence to a degree, is that actually something that participates in being itself, or is it an invention which is partly dajjalic, which is partly influenced by something other than our Adamic nature, right? And I think, my intuition always says that for the most part, actually, most of what we do, especially in this age, is if at least not part wholly influenced by those ulterior motives or voices or influences, right? Because so much of what we need is so superfluous to what is designed for us in our fitrah, right? And so this notion of thinking about the names of things, and people are responding in the chat. I don't know if this incites any thought within you, Dr. Abdelhadi, but it sounds like, yes, God sends signs and the devil puts up billboards. I like that. And there's an article here somebody's posting by Abdul Wahid al-Wakil, who we love. Yeah, do you have any thoughts?
Yes. No, that's such an amazing question asked by Shabir. And thank you for your thoughts, see Joshua. Beautiful. Yes, there's just so many dimensions to this whole discussion. So if something is invented, do we have to discover its name as opposed to ourselves naming it? I mean, there's no question that in our attempt to, I guess, experience reality, we are in the process of trying to find names and pick names. There's no question that there is a degree of us inventing things, and that's not a bad thing. The whole creative spirit depends on our ability to invent to a certain degree. I'm not against that one bit, because it comes from the divine name, the one who invents, the one who originates, from which we get al-bid'a and al-ibtida'a. Now, bid'a has a more negative connotation, but ibtida'a has a more positive connotation. Sometimes people forget that there's bid'a sayya and bid'a hasana. So bid'a hasana is totally within the Sharia. So invention is to invent is one of the divine names. I guess the name would be al-mubdi'a or something like that. I guess that's what, but it is one of the divine names.
Al-Badi'a.
Al-Badi'a, thank you so much. MashaAllah. Thank you. Yes, al-Badi'a. Badi'a samawat wal ard, right? Yeah.
Is it? I don't know if I'm interrupting, but thinking about the names and things that we invent, And going back to what you were talking about, nominalism and language, and that actually the names, divine names, that actually that our language actually is connected in a real way to, I don't know all the proper terminology, but it comes from Allah, and the names are not just random things, that our words are not just random inventions. And so then maybe where we could say that the person who's invented something is actually bringing that something from the pre-eternal, pre-existence place where that really already exists, and that whatever they name that thing is actually, Allahu Alim, without them even realizing it, an inspiration from Allah to give it the name that actually is the name of that thing. I don't know.
I mean, what a superb comment. As are all the comments from all of you. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for teaching me as well. I couldn't have said it better. So that's why there's no innate inventing ex nihilo. Like, so Sheikh Al-Akbar also talks about this. You can't invent ex nihilo. Allah does that. Whenever someone says, I invented something, really, it's more like he's discovered something. And I know discovery and rediscovery is a theme that Sidi Ali talks about a lot. It's in Plato as well. Remembering things, right? Discovering things within ourselves. That's the true meaning of invention, because you can't really invent ex nihilo, right? So no, just because we invent something does not mean it's automatically from the devil. A'udhu billah. I'm not saying that. I'm more alluding to a certain way of thinking in the postmodern era, a postmodern form of thinking that possibly is in some ways at odds, to some extent, with the pre-modern understanding of how realities work. They're fixated, and you're trying to discover what these realities are. We can't invent realities. That would be the just the general gist of the idea. So obviously, sages who name things are naming them, but with the intention of discovering it, not with the intention of wanting to give it their own name. That's where a world of a difference occurs. I hope that makes sense. And and just sorry, go ahead.
Muhammad, and there are a few other people that wanted to comment.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Sidi.
Yes,
thank you so much. Sidi, the apparent meaning for the first paragraph about that there are some qualities, or let's say the way I understand it is some parts of the divine essence can only be seen in a reflection and not like from itself by itself. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this is not what the Sheikh Akbar means, but kind of the apparent meaning seems to be like like Allah is not aware of himself until he is manifested or reflected in a mirror or in the creation. Or, how do you understand like the meaning of what is exactly meant? But that some of the qualities of the divine essence or the exact divine essence cannot be seen except through a reflection in the mirror or the creation.
Yes, sure. I mean, that's an excellent question. I don't know how comfortable I am taking it on, given my own very limited knowledge. But there's no question that we revert back to our asl. What is our asl? That Allah knows everything. There's no question about that. And that His knowledge is perfect and that there's no deficiency in it. What I got out of that particular part of the passage is that it's not possible to know things in the exact same way in each martaba, in each level of existence. So when one looks at the level of the wahadiyya or the samadiyya, the treasure chest, the hidden treasure, and sees the contents of the treasure, that's a form of knowing that is not the same form of knowing as the ahadiyya, right? And it's kind of ajib, But this would be me stepping into territory that I'm not proficient in. But to me, it would appear to allude to the idea that when Allah does something, it can be even easier for him to do it the second time without that implying any deficiency on his part whatsoever. And there's a verse in the Quran to that effect, that when he creates the second creation, it's even easier for him without implying any deficiency, without that implying, meaning that he didn't know something the first time. No, a'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. But it's a reference to a possibility that the divine can experience a dhawq, tasting. Because when we look at ourselves, there's no question that we experience a multiplicity of tasting, and we taste and experience different realities. So if people don't know this word dhawq, it's a technical term in the Sufi terminology, which means to taste things from a spiritual perspective, right? To taste the reality and see what that reality actually is. At the level of the ahadiyya, the dhawq of the ahadiyya is very different to the dhawq of the samadiyya, right? So I think the Shaykh just wants to establish the different levels of the maratab, because if you don't, then all you get is ahadiyya, from which you cannot explain how the cosmos comes into being. But I'm not going to venture into this question too much, because
I think sorry if I may just jump in briefly.
Yeah.
But it came to mind also the poem by Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one that says أتزعم أنك جرم صغير وفيك انطوى العالم الأكبر.
Yes.
You presume you are a minuscule being, but within you unfolds the entire cosmos.
Yep.
وأنت الكتاب المبين الذي بأحرفه يظهر المضمر. You are the manifest book that from which the hidden becomes manifest.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's Allah experiencing Allah, but we are
Correct.
we are
Correct.
we are experiencing. Yani Allah had no, like, he couldn't have created us and everything continued without us. But the fact that we are, that's the greatest blessing of all. And then the reason of all creation is Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, the ultimate beloved.
Yeah. There's no question about it. And who is the most perfect being in the whole of existence, exactly. And I am in favor of the way you express that, Allah, experiencing Allah, but through what? His names, through his divine names, exactly. Which is a very ajib thing to talk about, because Allah is not like a universe. He's not like a robot, where he has qualities of tashbih that are expressed through the lens of tanzih. But he has tashbih, but expressed through the lens of tanzih, right? So there are different kinds of tashbih, and I'm sure this is a reference to a certain form of tashbih, which is important for us to know, because then that's how we come to know Allah, through the qualities of tashbih and tanzih, but especially tashbih. This is why Adam, who is the universal being, the Jama' al-Kawn, and Rasul is the most perfect human being, Adamic human being, he is the sight of Allah's gaze. And who is this again? Al-Qutb al-Zaman as well. He is the sight of Allah's gaze. And if you don't know who the Qutb al-Zaman is, he is called the whole of existence, Qutb al-Wujud. And this would lead us into Ibn Arabi's prophetology, which is very much connected to this paragraph as well, without a shadow of a doubt. Because the world, the cosmos, not just our Earth, the entire universe, every universe beyond our universe, the millions of cosmoses, they only exist by virtue of the awliya, especially the Qutb al-Zaman. So if we very briefly look at the hierarchies of saints, awliya, the holy beings, because of whom, min ajrahum, because of whom Allah preserves the cosmos, the Qutb is the highest one. After him are called the Autad. What does a Watad mean in Arabic? What does a Qutb mean in Arabic? A watad is like is a peg. It's a peg, right? Which you hammer into the ground. And then a pole, and then the kutub is a pole. So the whole cosmos is the image of a tent. If you remove the pegs and the tent, it collapses. That's the image. So Allah preserves the cosmos for their sake. That's why perfect man is the sight of Allah's gaze. If he ceases to exist, the whole cosmos collapses. Which is why when one kutub dies, he's replaced, or she, by the way. A woman can be the kutub of the whole wujud. He or she. Yeah. When he or she dies, he's replaced by the next, or she's replaced by the next kutub. Because if it's not replaced, the whole tent collapses, right? Which is why we said in one of the following paragraphs that the cosmos is a jasad musawwa, but a lifeless jasad. It's a corpse. It's a corpse, right? He will say this in Fasnuh. It's a jitham. It's a corpse without Adam. So once he breathes the spirit into Adam alayhi salam, he animates the cosmos, his being, his whole being, the being of, and the ones who come after him. And after Muhammad alayhi salam, the aqtab, the kutub, they animate the cosmos. They breathe life into the cosmos. Without them, it's just a lifeless corpse, and it collapses on itself. Which, and if you know hadith, this is the explanation for the Sa'ah. This is the explanation for how the Sa'ah will arrive. When the last saint is born on earth, he's upon the heart of Shith alayhi salam, born with his twin sister. If you've covered this, please tell me. I can't remember if you covered it or not. He calls the people to Allah. They refuse. And then Allah takes him and the believers along with them. And the only people who are left on earth are the ones who have animal, beastly natures. The Sa'ah will rise upon them because there's no more kutub. The human project in that sense is finished. And then the day of judgment comes after that. So they're the ones who preserve the cosmos, which is why you get that reference in that paragraph to the cosmos being a well-proportioned body who's animated by the perfect human being, insan al-kamil, and all these magnificent saintly beings spread and strewed throughout the earth and the cosmos even. Yes, and there's more to say about that.
Ustaz, I want to make a comment on one thing as well, yes. And then but yes. Before that, I noticed that Zinira has had her hand up for a while, so I just want to acknowledge.
Please, yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I just wanted to share, like, when you spoke about knowing the names of Allah and the link with knowing the names of creation, something really clicked because so recently, for the last few years, I've been focusing on just the names, like primarily the names as my ibadah, obviously in addition to the fara'id. And so I had a couple of really strange experiences, which now that you've spoken about it makes so much sense. I was at this girl's house who my tutor, and I told her grandma, like I was leaving the house and I said, bye, Marilyn. And she said, how did you, why did you call me Marilyn? And I said, that's your name. And she said, I've never told you that. I've only told you that my name is Lynn. And I was like, oh, that's strange. But like, I just knew it. And I was like, in my mind, like literally the reason why I told her that was like, that is your name. And I just knew that. And then yesterday I was talking to my friend about, on like social media, sometimes they send you these stories from like what you did 3 years ago. So memory came up of like my friend and we were with her friend whom I've only met that one time. And I told her, I don't remember your friend's name. What's her name? And she said, I don't even remember her name. And I was like, that's so strange. But she's a mom, so she has a mom brain. And then I told her, like, all of a sudden, I was like, is her name Sabah? And she said, oh, yeah, that is her name. And then I was like, oh, subhanAllah. And then I was like, I think this might have something to do with the fact that I'm doing zikr of the names of Allah. And now you actually did sort of make that connection. And also, like, from a linguist perspective, like I was thinking, and also like an energy perspective, right? Like going back to the question of discovering versus inventing names. is like the fact that I think there are some names, like there are people who do energy healing, who heal people just by changing their name. So apparently people have names whose energies are not aligned with the energy of that name that their parents gave them at birth. And then they find a name that matches them better. And just by that, like their energy changes. And the other thing that I've also learned is like, in terms of like ruqya and stuff, is like they use, especially in terms of black magic, they said that if someone does not know your name, they cannot do black magic on you. So it's like a name is like an access. It's like a doorway to access like your spirit. And so there's so much depth in Allah saying, "Allama al-Adam al-Isma'a kullaha." And also the fact that, you know, the fact when we speak in language, like it's primarily sort of revolves around naming things. And then we go, you know, from that to verbs and all the rest of it. So yeah, I just wanted to say, Jazakallah, I love your style of presentation and how you're incorporating all the sort of realities along with the text. Jazakallah.
Allah barak fiki. And that's such a beautiful story to tell. And I'm seeing comments that are along the same lines. Jazakallah khairan. I mean, all of you could be my teacher, quite frankly. MashaAllah, you know. Yes, like that's such a very interesting story, you know, just to add to that. So then someone also mentioned that like in heaven, Jannah, paradise, each person has 7 names that describe who they really are. You know, it's like really ajib. You have a celestial name, in fact. And with regard to black magic, that's so interesting because it's connected to the problem of himma. When you use himma to make an effect on someone. So these things are real. This is why, and as Arabs, clearly Muslims in the subcontinent too and around the world, we believe in something called ayn. If you've ever heard of this, we do believe in ayn. Like someone can take a look at you and be like, "Oh, what an amazing baby you've got," and then the baby falls flat on his face. Or it could be for the opposite reason. You're like, "Man, I really wish he didn't get that job. I wish I got it." Makes me angry. And then something happens to them. It's connected to these subtle realities. Absolutely. And Dr. Waqar Ahmed also, had a beautiful comment. So did Maham, mashallah. I just wanted to ask from Maham, so also for Arabic speakers who know better than me, is qaswa related to the Arabic word qasi, asi, which is like harshness? Is that a valid connection or not?
So that's what they thought. Like the person who advised them to change the name said that the name Qaswa has something to do with like the quality of hardness. And that was kind of something related to her health condition as well, that what was happening to her. And nothing was fixing her, nothing. Like they had so many doctors' visits, like so many specialists and everything. And then nothing would really help. And so they said you should choose something that is more harmonious or something that is just nicer, softer, something with a more beautiful meaning or something like that. And then that is what might help her. And it did. Like when they named her Aisha, she just, since then she's been fine.
Ajib. That's so ajib. I wasn't aware of this sort of thing. Thank you very much for bringing it to my attention. How strange, how ajib. Wow. There's so much to say about that. Jazakallah khairan for sharing. Wow, thank you.
Sudhi, I want to comment on this word that I've highlighted here because I think this is a very important part of this portion of the text. Kalmara.
Yes.
And the etymological significance, right, of this word.
Yes.
And also, you know, the role of and again, I think that this came up in the group chat at one point, and there was a little bit of back and forth, you know, about, you know, men over women, women over men, et cetera, in terms of, you know, referencing certain hadith and interpretations of the text. And I don't think that's the sort of direction that this conversation needs to take. But I think that this particular word in relationship to the topic coming into this chapter of the Khalifa of Adam alayhi salam, this is an important point.
Right. So you want to go over this word al-mirat, which is obviously a very important word, as you said. Okay, amazing. So, of course, the word means a mirror, which is related to, of course, the concept of vision and seeing. So Allah, al-Ism al-Jama', the all-comprehensive name, who comprehends every divine name in existence, sees his qualities being manifested in us. That's connected to the hadith al-Qudsi of the hidden treasure. That's the whole point of the hidden treasure, that he witnesses the cosmos manifesting his divine names. That's why he made us. That's the whole point. So that's also related to another hadith. I don't know if Steve Ali mentioned it or not. Please remind me if he did. But there's another hadith which it's exactly related to this idea. And please, sorry, Joshua. I apologize if I go off on a tangent. You can pull me back in if it's too far off a tangent. But there's another hadith where Rasulullah mentions, and he says, there is a people who do not sin, and if you did not sin, then Allah will just remove you, get rid of that people, and replace you with the people who did sin and ask for Allah's forgiveness. Right? Why is that?
Because he's the Tawwab.
No, but why would he remove the first people?
Because one of his manifestations or divine names, al-Tawwab, is from Dawam al-Tawbah, or Dawam al-Tawbah ala ibadi. So that is a manifestation of his divine al-Ghaffar, انه دائم المغفرة. So these manifestations, al-Ghafur wal-Ghaffar wal-Tawwab, they require continuous repentance to manifest.
But why get rid of the first group? They didn't sin. Isn't that a good thing?
Because they're safe.
They were perfect.
But why get rid of them? Interesting.
Because they will be doing like a ta'til for one of the divine names of Al-Ghaffar, because Al-Ghaffar is someone who sins.
Mashallah alayk. The whole point is the hidden treasure. The whole point is for Allah, because we're talking about the mirror. He sees his qualities manifested in the cosmos. So the whole point of the cosmos is to manifest his divine names. That's the whole purpose. So it acts as a mirror for which he can see the manifestation of his own divine names. That's the whole point. That's rooted in a Quranic verse in which Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. What's the meaning of لِيَعْبُدُونِ? According to Ibn Abbas, who is Mufassir,
to worship me.
لِيَعْرِفُونِ.
Who said that? لِيَعْرِفُونِ. According to the Tarjuman al-Quran, yes, exactly as mentioned in the chat, is to know me. It's to know me. So if we did not manifest the qualities of his sifat, there's no point for us to be around. There's no point for the cosmos to be around. You know, which is a very different way of thinking. So the cosmos requires a certain degree of sin, but if it's just all sin and it's an overabundance of sin, then he would also get rid of it because other names aren't being manifested. So that's why there needs to be a certain balance. And we're not Puritans, purists, Puritans. Everything's got to be 100%, 110% no sin. Then who can live like that? Like, you strive to remove sin. There's no doubt about that. But you're not puritanical, which reminds you of the Puritans of the Renaissance and right, and that particular age. We're not puritanical, right? Allah has a wisdom in which certain deficiencies are manifest in existence. Therefore, Shaykh Al-Akbar says that the existence of imperfection in existence is perfection. So Allah's names can be manifested. So people make a mistake, they ask for his forgiveness, which manifests the divine name Al-Ghafur and Ghafara. And there's a third one as well. I'm trying to remember it. That involves Ghafar. Ghafar al-Dhanb. That's the third one. Ghafar al-Dhanb. Right. It's three kinds. And then there's also al-Afu as well, of course. If we did not manifest the names, then that takes away the purpose of the cosmos. That's why the cosmos exists. Yes. And then we in turn witness Allah through the mirror. We in turn witness him and witness his names, his sifat, and his af'al through the objects of existence, which is why there's nothing useless in existence. Did Sidi Ali tell you this story? So that Sheikh Al-Akbar was walking in the marketplace one day and he's holding the fish. Did he tell you that?
I don't think we went over this one yet.
Okay, good. So she see that Sheikh Al-Akbar is walking the marketplace and he's in the beginning of his path. His sheikh at that time is Sheikh Abu Ja'far al-Uryani, who, by the way, he is a Christic saint. So his inheritance is from Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. So his way of thinking, his way of conducting himself is according to the Isawi mode of sainthood. Okay? So Sheikh Al-Akbar, so he also learned from him. And that affected his suluk, his way, spiritual wayfaring. He's walking the marketplace with a disgusting, smelly fish. And then the students were saying, why is he doing that? Like, is this a form of mujahada, which is a kind of spiritual mortification or struggling against himself? Is he doing ta'dib al-nafs? Is he trying to punish himself in order to spiritually cleanse himself? Which is not really encouraged. Like, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? So it kind of shocked the students. So then the sheikh told the students, why don't we just ask him why he's doing it? So they went up to him and they said, is this some form of mujahid you're doing that we don't understand? And then he said, no, subhanAllah, it's nothing like that. I didn't even cross my mind. I just saw that Allah did not disdain to create this being. So he thought it was worth making this. So who am I to not hold it? Who am I not to hold it? Because it has what's called a mustanid ilahi, a foundation, a divine foundation. So it has a foundation in the divine name, which makes it holy, if I could say, which gives it worth and value, right? So then we see his effects in existence, and we perceive him in existence through the things, which is why this is so important, because there's certain forms of asceticism in which we denigrate the world. That's not Islamic, or at least that's not Akbarian, we might say. The whole cosmos is the theater for his divine names. Nothing is 100% ugly. Nothing's 100% ugly. Everything has a degree of beauty to it. Some have more beauty, some have less beauty. But everything is beautiful, so that the Isawi saint, knowing this haqiqah, sees all things as beautiful. Absolutely. And that's why when Rasulullah crosses by the decaying corpse of a dog, Sahaba are like, it stinks. And then Rasulullah said, but it's got this beautiful white teeth. He finds the beauty in it, right? Yeah. Azib.
That's beautiful. I think, I don't know if it would be of value to just touch upon the next section in the text, the third part, because I think the beginning sort of summarizes this in a way. Well, and also this goes back to Shabir's comment, right? Is it that we just need to learn how to reorient towards the things that we create, because ultimately we cannot create other than that which is of God, right? And so it's just a matter of orientation, right? And perception. I think
hopefully orientating ourselves towards the divine names of beauty. Yes.
Sorry if I may jump in also. I'm recalling the hadith about the divine names, the prophetic hadith alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah.
Yes.
So it's about ihsa al-asma, and what does that mean? That's ihsa as in as Sayyid Ibn Arabi says, al-kawn al-hasir.
That's an excellent question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question, because ahsa means to count, right? And it's obviously not physical counting. There's a higher meaning to it, which I recall another hadith that uses the word ahfaz, right? The one who retains the divine name, who, so my understanding of it is that the one who manifests the names in himself, right? Who does tahqiq of the name, right? Then he's obtained the value of that name, right? But I am not qualified to answer that question. I apologize.
Well,
Ervina?
thank you. It's just, yeah.
Oh, تفضل.
No, I was just saying, I just believe in from Allah's mercy in that hadith is that, you know, it can hold as in, yes, someone who manifests in all or as much as they can, or even just to learn them. Yani Allah wants to get everyone in His mercy in that sense. But Allahu
Yeah,
A'lam, as you say.
sure. Even if ahsa means to literally count, then that's dhikr. So the one who does
Yes,
dhikr,
exactly.
the divine name, then of course he will enter Jannah. Exactly. He does la Allah and so on and so forth, and this dhikr. Yeah, absolutely. If that's the meaning, yes. Sorry, I see a hand up, but how do I?
Ervina?
Yes.
Thank you for all the discussion. I was thinking about Surah Al-Fatiha in the end, that basically makes us pray to be saved from the wrath of God or the Jalali attributes of God. How do we understand this kind of avoidance of certain attributes, or to pray to not like to be saved from them? And on one hand, and on the other hand, being created as someone who God wants to manifest all the attributes in us.
Oh, beautiful question. Thank you. It's very simple. Salvation, I mean, salvation lies in the application of the outward sharia, but if we're talking about divine names, salvation lies in achieving a balance of the names, be it Jalali or Jamali. If you are imbalanced in the names, then that's where damnation lies, or misguidance lies. That's where it is. It's that simple. So if you are manifesting the names in completely helter-kelter, out of balance, then you are misguided. You come under the property of the divine name, al-Mudil, the misguider. And that's how it happens. So for example, Fir'aun, he completely manifests the divine name al-Mutakabbir out of proportion to the other divine names, from which you get misguidance. That's how. But the divine names and the Jalali names and the Jamali names, not just the Jalali names. Like if you apply the Jamali names incorrectly, you're also misguided. The Jamali names and the Jalali names, if you apply them according to the Sharia, that's why we learn Sharia. The Sharia is what saves you. When you apply them according to the Sharia and the standards of the Sharia, which shows you how to apply them, then you're saved. The Sharia tells you where the balance is.
Thank you.
And then there's a comment from CD Petro. The word that comes to my mind is integrity. Yes, which is in integrating the names in a harmonious, balanced manner. Yes, correct. And that's how CD Eric Winkle Shuaib translates the word al-salihun, who are called the integrated ones, because they integrate the divine attributes into themselves in a harmonious manner, which makes them salih. That's what it means. So that's a beautiful comment from CD Petro.
And he goes on in the next section here.
Yes.
فالأمر كله منه ابتداء والانتهاء وإليه يرجع الأمر كله.
Yes.
All things from their first to their last come from him, and to him the whole affair shall be returned. So
yes.
There you have it.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful. Exactly.
Yeah, but he says that the situation required that the mirror of the world be clear.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So there is this, this question between, for example, like in the Christian, idea of, I think that they say grace versus works, right?
Yes.
And so that you know, how is the clarity of the mirror established, right? And the polishing of the mirror.
Yes, absolutely. There's no question that if Sayyidina Adam and the Adamic human being is the heart of existence, that's what he is, then obviously his own spiritual heart, the pure spiritual organ, is the heart of that heart. And if you, therefore, one must polish this spiritual heart in order to refract and reflect the divine realities, and that this is the thing that must be polished in order for the universe to remain in balance.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any thoughts on this second? Because I think that we sort of, at least when I was sharing the screen for the most part of the session today, was focused on this first part. I just want to see if there's any thoughts,
Sure.
you know, on any of the
We've got
keywords here.
So we've got from Maham as well.
Maham?
Yeah, sorry. It was not about the second part. It was just something that I was reflecting on about the first part. It's not really like a coherent thought yet. It's just a couple of like things that were just energetically coming through. It's what you said before about how things become easier the second time, like for Allah, like not that there's any deficiency in Allah's ability to create anything or to make something happen or manifest something, but it's like there is this tension of like, and we did it once, so do you think that we can't do it again and it's easier? And it took me to the idea of like things like even neural pathways and things like that. Like it's sometimes when you think in a certain way or you behave in a certain way, your brain creates these shortcuts and your energy flows easier in that direction the more you get used to it. And when you build habits, like you got to do it consistently for like a certain amount of time, and then those neural pathways cement themselves and it just becomes easier, like the energy just flows in that direction. And I was reflecting previously on the verse in Surah Baqarah. I am forgetting which one it is right now, but it's in the passage that's kind of that talks about and don't say about those who are killed in the way of Allah that they are dead, rather they're alive with their Lord, but you do not perceive. And then it goes on to say that those who are rightly guided, who keep themselves patient with prayer, and who say inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, like these people are the ones whom Allah, it's there's almost like a sense of his attention, his gaze turning towards them, and then he grants them rahmah, and then they are the ones who are the muhtadun, who are the rightly guided. And so it's this thing like I think there was something about like there was a question in here of something about like the essence of like things coming into being. I'm forgetting what the question was at this point, but it made me think of how everything already exists and there's more in existence than we can perceive. So I would say most of what exists is in that web, like whether it's things that we haven't discovered yet or things that are not even allowed to us for us to discover. And yet those things they're just kind of vibrating, and then when we start to turn our himma towards those things or our attention towards those things, sometimes Allah will let certain things come into being, and those things, like it's kind of making that resonance by embodying or discovering the names of certain things, or like, you know, being inspired through Allah. And so just this thing of like how we said there needs to be a tahqiq of Allah's names within us, but that starts somewhere, like that is how you attract Allah's gaze to you, but then on a certain level it also requires Allah's gaze turning to you beforehand so that you are then granted inspiration or guidance or rahmah, or, you know, the self-realization, self-actualization. So yeah.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
MashaAllah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And yes. Yeah, that's all I could say to your thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing them. Wow. I mean, that's giving me something to think about. Jazakallah khairan.
And we have a few more minutes, so let's take Hebba and Shabir.
Yes.
Thank you. I thought of Maglia in Egypt. We don't polish with like the pledge spray and soft cloth. We actually polish the floor with acid, and it takes off a layer of the floor. So that's a very powerful word for me. And
wow.
Adam is also known for forgetting the consequence of the forbidden tree, and then he remembers and Allah reminds him. So that's forgetting and reminding. I love to hear the balance of names. And in math, when I'm teaching math, we use calculators a lot, and kids are forgetting their multiplication tables.
Yep.
And that's okay with me, because a lot of things are becoming obsolete, but it makes me wonder, how much do we forget?
Yeah. We forget a lot, don't we? And it just seems like the older methods of teaching, the older sciences, are more geared towards discovering ourselves. I mean, please, experts on Plato, correct me, see Joshua. Wasn't this the purpose of geometry and these sciences, to help us remember who we are? And they're more like proper spiritual disciplines when used properly.
Yeah,
according to Plato.
Did he not enter here who does not know geometry? You know, all of these art forms really would, you know, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, etc., poetics, right? Rhetoric.
Yes.
It was all for the purpose of ultimately doing dialectic. You know, Socrates says the art of dialectic is the highest art form that exists, and it's the dialectic that can really take one up the ladder, right? And to the essence, let's say. So yeah, I mean the word in Greek is anamnesis, right?
Yes, beautiful.
Amnesia, anamnesia, unamnesia. We have some other Plato aficionados, connoisseurs, scholars in here, so I don't want to talk too much and embarrass myself, but I'll say that much. Anamnesis. Shabir. Well,
but sorry, just before I take on Shabir, I know that we're out of time, but just very quickly, just to add to that comment. Sorry, I didn't see the lady's name. Please forgive me, but
Hebba.
Hebba, thank you, Hebba. That's why these older disciplines and the disciplines we're learning in general, the roots are where do we get mathematics from, and even accounting. Rumi says they're all rooted in prophetic revelations. So they're prophetic sciences. Their origin comes from the prophets. Ajib. Yeah, thank you.
Well, Ibn Arabi says when he's in Egypt actually, and he's sitting in front of the pyramid. I think he's asleep, or he's in a deep state of contemplation, and he has a revelation, an opening that it was Prophet Idris alayhi salam, who was responsible for the construction of the pyramids, right?
Wow.
So I that one always was very impactful to me. Right?
Yeah.
So just to your point. Okay, let's see. One more share, Shabir, and then we will close out.
Jazakallah, thank you for the wonderful session so far, really enjoying it. Somebody shared a thought with me, and I might even have heard it here, so forgive me if I'm repeating something, but it's worth sharing, I think, is that in this task of being the mirror to reflect and refract the divine light, there's a thought that Allah is also eager to see this reflection. And so there's a beautiful Qawwali, I think, by Nusrat, when he sings Tuwe Gorod Nandaho. He talks about the scenarios where different people seek out God, like Qais, Majnun seeks out God, but God distracts him with the love of Layla. And he gives so many of those examples. But when it came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu the Prophet didn't seek God himself, brought the Prophet to him in the Mi'raj. So there's this eagerness of God, which I also thought then, perhaps in Hadith Qudsi, when you see Allah says that if you come to me at arm's span length, I'll come walking to you. If you come walking to me, I'll come running to you. There's almost like an eagerness of God for us to polish our hearts so that he can see himself through us as well, which I thought was probably a thought worth sharing.
It is brilliant comments. Thank you so much for telling us.
Yeah, thank you. Mariam is asking, do you think that the similarity mara is also connected in the meaning?
Ask the Adi.
Yeah. You mean mirror and woman?
Mar'a. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that technically the roots are different. One comes from the root having to associated with seeing, and the other one is what would be mim alif mim ra hamza, and then the other one be ra hamza yeah.
So are they the same root?
But
there is a poem by Rumi on that. I think it says woman is a beam of divine light.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me.
Well, that was sort of my point in bringing attention to that word, is that because some scholars also say that, you know, they have we always think of you being quadriliteral or triliteral roots in Arabic, but some even say, and I think Ibn Arabi even says this, that actually you can boil it down to two. And so if you take it down to the two, then there is a connection there. And I think that he definitely, I mean, whether it's explicit or not, you know, and then this is also, you can draw on the Sunnah, you can draw on the Hadith to find connections, right, between this notion of the mirror and reflection and openness, right? This sort of like perfected. This is, you know, Christianity. This is, and not even just Christianity. This is in Islam as well. The perfection of Maryam as the vessel for the logos, right? So and Adam, right, as the polished mirror.
Yes.
But it's a certain kind of receptivity, right?
Receptivity. So if there is a connection, but ask the Ali, but if there is a connection, that's why in the very last chapter of the Fusus, in Faris Muhammad, he says that the perfect vision of Allah is in a woman. There you go.
Really? That's so interesting. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But obviously, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and the reason why is also because he says she's the perfect receptacle for the most perfect form, which is the human being. So then that makes sense with it.
Yes, yes. In her capacity as being receptive. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Khalas.
Khalas, exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let's see, Maham. It is Huda, Ustaza Huda, yeah, it is in the Fusus. That is in the Fas
Muhammad.
Fas Muhammad, yeah.
Fas Muhammad, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
The very end. Yes, exactly. The Hadith. God made me love three things: woman, perfume, and prayer. Yeah.
And in that order.
And Jannah is at the feet of the mothers, right?
Oh, of course. Yes, yes.
So, okay, Alhamdulillah. So, thank you everybody for your presence and participation, and a special thank you to Dr. Faris Abdelhadi for joining us today and leading the discussion. It was beautiful. I think
thank you.
a lot of us got a lot out of it. So thank you, and inshallah we'll see you all next week, same time, and probably sometime tomorrow I'll have a chance to upload the recording for those that were not here. And barakallahu feekum, and inshallah we'll see you next week.
Thank you to all of you. Jazakallah khairan, beautiful people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair.